The gun smuggling trial of one of the Toronto gold heist suspects is set to get underway in Pennsylvania in less than a month. However, two of his alleged co-conspirators are still in Canada. You might remember that big joint task force press conference in April when Peel Regional Police and U.S. law enforcement announced charges in both countries for two crimes: that $24 million theft of gold and foreign currency from an Air Canada cargo facility in 2023, and a scheme to purchase and smuggle firearms from the U.S. into Canada involving some of the same people and possibly some of the funds from the stolen gold. Well, Katie Nicholson has been looking into this and what it could all mean and how it could affect the Canadian gold heist. So, Katie, this firearms trial is supposed to start next month, but the U.S. authorities only have one of the accused Canadians in custody. So what's expected to happen here?
Yeah, so one of my first big questions is there a plan to extradite the other two suspects? Because right now they only have Durante King McLean in custody. He was pulled over by Pennsylvania State Police last September. This was the big break for both cases. And the Pennsylvania State Police say that they found 65 firearms in the back of his car that were essentially destined for Canada and for resale in Canada. Two of the alleged co-conspirators, who are also here in Canada waiting for the gold heist case to move through the courts, they have not yet been arraigned. They've not gone to the U.S. So how does this trial proceed without them? So that's Prasath Paramalingam and Archit Grover, both implicated in both cases. And, you know, the question is, what happens to their charges? What happens to their U.S. charges? Essentially, the DOJ has been very tight-lipped. I've been asking them this for months, what their plans are about these two suspects in Canada. So they're not saying whether they're going to try to extradite them before this trial starts in September, or they'll wait for the Canadian case to move through the courts and make a decision after that. What I did do is talk to a couple of extradition experts here in Canada. Rob Curry is a law professor at the University of Dalhousie University, and he says it's very unlikely, simply because extradition in Canada takes such a long period of time. If you want a speedy trial, as the U.S. clearly does in this case, it would be somewhere between 18 months to 3 years sometimes for an extradition case to move through the courts. Here is Rob Curry.
Extradition can be time-consuming, particularly if individuals contest being extradited. So I imagine what the American prosecutors are doing is moving forward with the prosecutions that they have in hand, and will wait for the extradition of the other two individuals.
So essentially what may happen is the U.S. will just wait and see what happens with these two suspects in Canada before deciding to extradite them.
Now, with this U.S. case, is there a potential impact on the Canadian case, depending on what happens?
For sure. I mean, any evidence that is presented in the U.S. trial, that's presuming there is a trial. Maybe there won't be. Perhaps Mr. Durante King McLean will decide to strike a deal, and then there won't be a trial. Either way, any evidence that is presented through a plea bargain or through a trial can be used by the Canadian prosecutors, by the Crown. There is a great deal of interagency and cross-border evidence sharing. I talked to Leo Adler, a criminal defense lawyer here in Toronto, who has done many of these types of cases.
Wiretap evidence is, under our criminal code and under the American federal code, you have a reciprocity that you can use the wiretaps evidence. So there is some overlay. There's also overlay through the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty with the exchange of evidence.
So Leo Adler tells me this may be the first time that we hear some of the evidence that Canadian authorities may have collected, if it pertains to this case, through this U.S. trial. And that, in turn, provides some of the suspects on this side of the border a chance to see just how robust the case against them might be and how strong the evidence. And that could inform some of their decisions here on this side of the border with the gold heist case.